Hey, it's Phil Meyer. Let's talk about Dragoon on controller. You've been asking for it, and I've been focused on getting the layout ready. We know Evercold's Evolve mode will shake things up quite a bit, but we've got some time until then. Dragoon is an iconic and stylish job, challenging to master but super satisfying when you do. Its single target attack chain seems to stretch on as far as its high jump, which adds extra challenge to planning a comfortable layout. All of my melee controller layouts focus on optimizing core global cooldown abilities on the face buttons, so I can better maintain character movement while working through my rotation. Dragoon is no different. Like my other layouts, I split Dragoon's core actions into two cross hotbar sets. The first is for single target attacks, and the second focuses on ranged and area attacks. I quickly swap between these two sets by tapping the right shoulder button, which can be configured in character configuration settings. I recently published a video walking through my updated controller settings framework, including how to set up set switching. If you're new, check that out after this video. Let's walk through the ability placements, then as usual, I'll give you a demo of the layout in action. Starting with the single target set, Dragoon's global cooldown attacks take the face buttons with supporting off-global actions on the D-pad clusters. This makes it feel more natural to weave in off-global skills between primary attacks. The right trigger's face buttons are where I've placed Dragoon's primary attack combo. At level 100, these are True Thrust, Lance Barrage, Heaven's Thrust, and Fang and Claw. Fang and Claw deals more damage from the target's flank, so I've placed it on the right face button to help me remember that. The left trigger is home to the core of the second single target combo, which includes Spiral Blow, Chaotic Spring, and Wheeling Thrust. Similar to Fang and Claw, both Chaotic Spring and Wheeling Thrust deal more damage from the target's rear, and their placements on the top and bottom face buttons reflect that. Both combos open with True Thrust on the right trigger, and at higher levels include morphing actions that extend them further than just the slotted actions. This has you switching back and forth between triggers to complete those combos, which naturally creates windows to weave in off-global actions on either side. Speaking of morphing abilities, by default the game throttles activating morphing off-globals to help prevent accidental presses. While that can be useful for some jobs, or if you want to ensure a global cooldown action is performed in between, with Dragoon, hitting both actions in succession isn't necessarily a bad thing. I prefer to disable this guard on all of Dragoon's skills, which can be done in the actions menu. I think this helps keep things feeling responsive. Winged Glide on the left trigger's face button is the exception to the off-global placements. If you've seen my previous job layout videos, you may recognize that I always put a job's primary gap closer on this button for consistency. Keeping gap closers on a face button lets me maintain control of my character until just before using it, which helps keep things feeling fluid. Elusive Jump on the left D-pad cluster is Dragoon's gap opener, a flashy backflip that covers a good distance. This placement is consistent with other gap openers across my layouts. Elusive Jump has a fairly short cooldown and doesn't require a target, so if you can get comfortable making a 180 turn just before using it, it can actually function as a gap closer in a roundabout way. I keep true north on this side of the hotbar since the natural flow of the combos has me looking for it most when I'm about to use Chaotic Spring. Lance Charge on the left button increases damage dealt for a short window, and its placement here works well for fitting it into the combo progression. Whirlwind Thrust is a strong attack with splash damage that can be worked in at any point in the rotation, and it fits well in this slot. Worth noting, since Whirlwind Thrust is learned at level 90, you'll be without it for most of the leveling process. Until then, I highly recommend keeping Gerskogel in this slot instead. I'll come back to that when we get to the AoE hotbar. The right trigger's D-pad houses Dragoon's remaining DPS roll actions, Leg Sweep and Bloodbath. These match my other job layouts. High Jump and Life Surge take the last two D-pad slots, again allowing for natural weaving between attacks. High Jump is interesting because both it and the attack it morphs into, Mirage Dive, are ranged off-global attacks. They can be used between any of Dragoon's basic attacks, whether single target, AoE, or ranged. For that reason, I made sure to keep it on this trigger, so it carries over to the same spot on Dragoon's second base hotbar. On the AoE and ranged hotbar, the basic single target attacks are swapped out for Dragoon's core AoE combo. Doom Spike, Sonic Thrust, and Corothan Torment take up 3 buttons, leaving one open for Piercing Talon, Dragoon's most basic single target ranged attack. This arrangement is similar to my tank layouts and will feel natural if you're comfortable with set swapping. It may take a little getting used to, but it also works well for Dragoon since its AoE attacks function like mini ranged attacks. Most deal damage in a line a moderate distance from Dragoon's position. On the left trigger, I drop True North from the D-pad since it has no effect on any of Dragoon's AoE attacks. Whirlwind Thrust shifts onto a face button since there's room for it on this hotbar, which gives a little extra mobility when weaving it between attacks. Gerskogel takes its permanent spot on a face button. By level 100, Gerskogel kicks off a chain of attacks. Gerskogel itself, the Nostrand, Stardiver, and Starcross. These 4 attacks are performed with just 2 buttons and must be completed within a short time window. That's the main reason I want these attacks next to each other on the base hotbar. They can be intermingled with Dragoon's other attacks or comfortably executed as a chain. When doing single target attacks, you'll need to switch over to the second hotbar to use the actions, which may take a little practice. I also highly recommend placing Gerskogel on a standard hotbar so it's easy to track its cooldown at all times. Let's wrap things up with a double cross hotbar. This stays the same across both crossbar sets, and since I dedicate 4 hotbars to every job, I just have it duplicated across those sets. On the left trigger, Feint and Second Wind take their usual spots on face buttons, matching my other layouts and keeping them within reach while moving. Arm's Length stays in its usual spot on the right trigger's D-pad for consistency with my other job layouts. That said, if consistency across jobs is not a priority for you, I'd recommend moving it to a face button since there are still several of those open. Speaking of which, Dragonfire Dive and Battle Litany take 2 of those face buttons on this trigger. Both have long cooldowns, which is why they end up on the double cross hotbar. Dragoon just can't use them as frequently as other actions. Their cooldowns are actually identical, so keeping them next to each other makes it easy to use them together. So that's the core layout, tuned for practical combat flow and mobility in line with my other layouts. I have L3 and R3 on the analog sticks mapped to sprint and assist targeting, as they are across all of my job layouts. My extended cross hotbar covers other common actions. Limit break, focus targeting, and target lock-on are the ones worth calling out specifically, and they are consistent across my combat job layouts. My controller setup framework guide covers how to get these configured. Check it out if you need a primer. Alright, let's run through an example combat rotation before we wrap up. As usual, the goal is to show the general flow of the layout in a typical encounter. I'm not going for perfect damage output. Thanks for watching, I hope this helped. With Evercold on the horizon, I'm not sure how many more layout videos I'll be making before the end of this year, but I'll keep my layouts up to date on my website. Keep an eye on it if you want the latest. I hope to see you in the next one.